In late summer 2023, Counter-Strike 2 was finally released. This made a lot of people very angry and is being widely regarded as a bad move. We could see the problem coming before it arrived. In the weeks leading up to release, large parts of the game were still missing, and Valve had committed themselves to releasing something by saying, coming summer 2023. September came and nearly went, and any metric of when summer actually is was very definitely nearing an end. And so its eventual release on September the 27th not only disappointed us by not coming with the missing maps and game modes that we thought it would, but it also managed to earn Counter-Strike 2 a place on the Valve Time list, which mostly documents when stuff comes out later than promised. So how did the release go? I think it went okay. The beta served its purpose well, transforming CS2 from being a limited prototype into being a bare-bones game with a reasonable degree of polish. We've seen updates rolling out for it at an unprecedented rate, which is just as well because Counter-Strike's fate depends on it. The only real mistake Valve made with this release was to promise the game this summer, and then to replace CSGO without replacing all its maps and game modes. Let's start by saying that Source 2 was kind of needed. CSGO made good use of Source 1 and pushed what it was capable of to the absolute limit. But the engine was ancient and extremely limited, and home to bodged coding from the decades of updates, tweaks and patches that engine had received by that point. It was a mess, held together with duct tape. For years we made do with it, but it was reaching the point where it was limiting the game's future potential, in ways that Counter-Strike 2 does not. So in that regard, I'd say that Counter-Strike 2 was needed. The game's future is much more exciting now we're no longer constrained by Source 1. Has the transition to Source 2 gone flawlessly? No. Has it gone reasonably well? Yes, I'd say so. History is so quickly forgotten, so I'll mention here that there were frequent forum discussions about Source 2 over the course of CSGO's lifespan, debating how the new engine would or wouldn't fix the game's many issues. So much speculation. But I think we all agreed on the complexity of moving CSGO to a new game engine, especially when it has to keep so much about the experience the same. Which other games have seen a shift like this? Spyro Remastered? So all things considered, I'd say it's done remarkably well. And I think we can accept a bit of bugginess now in exchange for the much brighter future a new engine has given Counter-Strike. But the release could have gone more smoothly with a less pressured release date, or at the very least, a roadmap of some sort to explain why half of the game is missing on release. Because the unforgivable mistake that Valve has made is to remove CSGO whilst CS2 still does not provide all the same game modes and maps just yet. We don't have Danger Zone or Arms Race or any of the fun little game modes that would have made this the proper Source 2 version of CSGO. Right now, CS2 feels more like a bare-bones competitive experience. So what happens now? The worst case, in my opinion, is if we never get these fun little game modes again, and if CS2 marks the point when the series finally does away completely with its indie, moddable roots and becomes just another competitive title. Until now, I wouldn't have thought this possible, but now it's been released in this state, I look at it and think, what if? The competitive and esports side is what drives Counter-Strike's current runaway success. The microtransactions are what earns Valve the money, and it's these two seemingly most important aspects of the game that have already headed over to the Source 2 version. Meanwhile, the significance of other aspects like the casual game modes and the modding scene seems to have shrunk, to the point where many players might not even notice their omission. They might even like how clean and empty the game's menus are without all this unnecessary casual bloat. But this being the future of Counter-Strike would make me very sad, and I think would kill the heart of the game, even if I can't begin to explain how or why or how long it would take before that happened. I came to the series in 2004 because I loved mapping for Half-Life 2, and when Counter-Strike Source featured bot support, I realised I could play my maps on that with and against AI players. It was very exciting for me. I didn't come to this game to become the best, and I think I'd resent it by now if I did. There have been times when I've engaged with this game competitively, but my reasons for loading the game up have changed many times over the last 20 years. And I think it's because of this that I've grown an appreciation for many aspects of the game over this time, and if anything, a bit of a dislike for the competitive filter that so many people can only see this game as. I think it would be a grave mistake for Valve to prioritise that aspect of it and to neglect everything else, because there are so many weird and wonderful communities further afield, beyond the realm of competitive play. And if all these things were lost and it became a streamlined competitive experience, then it would kill my enthusiasm for the game too. I couldn't imagine doing what I do with PUBG or Overwatch or Valorant instead, because those, to me, are nothing more than a competitive game that's there to play and to compete in. But Counter-Strike has always been like a whole ecosystem, one that's currently missing a very large part of it. I understand that the priority is to get the core gameplay tested and polished, and to ensure that CS2 is robust enough to stand up to the scrutiny of pro matches and arena-hosted events. That's understandable, given that it's now replaced CSGO, but I just hope that 2 in CS2 means more than just a new engine and a few minor tweaks to the competitive experience. I hope that Valve uses CS2 as a chance to revisit, to redefine and to overhaul the rest of the game modes as well. They've rolled out the mapping tools early for it. That's a good sign, and they're clearly not just going to abandon all the skin makers either. I reckon that's just going to carry on as it always has done, only with prettier finishes now that Source 2 has PBR materials. And Valve has already teased at Source 2 versions of the more casual maps, like Lake. So I'm hopeful that this is just Valve taking their time about it, focusing on one aspect of the game at a time, and then when they do eventually launch Arms Race or Danger Zone, I hope that it will be done with a degree of love and care. To reach the community server browser in CSGO, you needed to click play, then on this drop-down list, this button, then to accept a warning before it showed up. It was so hidden away. But in CS2 they've blessed it with this pretty new icon sat alongside matchmaking and practice modes. And they've overhauled the look of the server browser itself. Exciting stuff, even if the server browser is utterly useless and being abused hard right now. It's almost sacrilege to claim that there was a time when Counter-Strike wasn't competitively focused, but at CSGO's release it wasn't. It was a bunch of fun game modes and custom servers, with console support, and for players wanting challenging clan matches there was an underground community hidden away around the back somewhere. That bit has always been there, but it's only with the advent of matchmaking, skill-based ranks, and the rise of the esports scene that this has come to the forefront, instead of being that bit of the game that the average player never came into contact with. This has had knock-on consequences for the base gameplay, the skill of the player base, and on Valve's priorities for the game. And so I think it only makes sense that the casual game modes should be revisited, with all these advancements in mind. Some of the game modes that CSGO came with, like Demolition and Arms Race, worked better in 2012 than they do now in 2023. Demolition's weapon progression systems don't work so well with a more experienced player base, and its maps are dated. And Arms Race only seems to get more infuriating every year. If I had my way, I'd rework Hostage mode as well. So this year has very much been about porting the base game over to a new engine, but I hope the next few years will see the same degree of love and attention applied to other parts of the game as well. And maybe, by staggering the release of all these things, these more casual game modes will have a wave of interest as and when they come, rather than having them come out on release day, only to be overshadowed by Premier mode. CS2 may be released, but I still see this as being a period of testing, fixing and polishing. Some YouTubers have been on it with this release, with unprecedented amounts of content and enthusiasm for the game, and I can see why. But I've been quiet. Not for any sinister reason, it's just because you can all play it for yourselves now. I felt during the beta I had a duty of sorts to showcase things about the game, which I don't feel quite the same need to do right now. I also noticed a lot of negativity around the game. It's honestly much easier and healthier for me just to sit back and to watch as the problem solves itself, either because the claims turn out to be flawed in some way, or because there was a problem and because Valve is actively looking for problems and fixing them, they quickly roll out a fix for it without requiring my intervention. And I suppose the excitement for me comes from the new content, hopefully in the form of new game modes, maps and mechanics, which are yet to come. So I'd rather spend my time covering these big tangible things instead. So, CS2 has been released, yet the big moments lie either side. One back when it was first announced, and another in the future when we hopefully get all that juicy new content that will well and truly make CS2 worthy of killing CSGO.